Hello, students in our Global Case Studies class. We're very fortunate in having Erin Riley with us from the University of California Office of the President. And Erin, just a little bit about our class. We have graduate students, an excellent bunch this year at Portland State, and many of them are graduating with the Master's in Global Supply Chain here later this year. Yeah, so very exciting. And just as a reminder to our class, if you listen to this lecture, then this will make up for the second video chat that's required for the class. So, well, welcome, Erin. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in data analytics, and your transition from the food service industry to higher education?
Sure. Thanks, Erin. Well, my degree is actually in business economics. I did not, at the time when I was in school, think that I was going to end up in supply chain. Some of you may have, but or especially procurement, the area that I'm in currently. But so my degree is in economics, and I actually did start soon after school doing demand forecasting. So hopped right in. I had done some accounting as an internship. So I've always had that kind of numbers bent and systems bent. And I started with a food manufacturer and did their demand forecasting for about 3 years, largely food service, but definitely got into the retail arena. And while I was there, we acquired 3 different companies and divested of 2 of the holdings. So it was really a great time in learning. We fully integrated those acquisitions into our ERP systems and then again, back out. So I really went from working on automating those and integrating them. And then that's really where my systems experience began. I had a boss that was a information systems director. And so she really, the company was very technology forward. And so that was really where I got my start in transitioning from strictly the demand forecasting and really starting on embracing the system side of it. And as many things work, I had met through one of the marketing managers there, somebody that worked for the UC system, and they were building out at Office of the President. They were building out their team there, and approached me on coming over and working for them. And so I jumped into that role, doing analytics and reporting management, more from the. I went from the marketing side and the sales side then to the indirect procurement side.
Okay. So as far as technology, what are some of the common things that you've encountered in your career in these industries?
So there's data challenges, I think, everywhere, right? Okay. It's always a scramble to get your hands on more data and the right data and accurate data. And then a lot of times the systems aren't put in place to help you capture them, or they're poorly partnered with a process. And it's not optimized. So I'd say those were probably the 2 biggest things that I see with anyone you talk to.
Okay. What about the differences, say, in the higher ed environment versus food service or retail?
Yeah, I would have to say the manufacturer that I worked with, I was very lucky because they understood the importance of data, and they really put a lot of focus and teams around having accurate, actionable data. And it was a very data-driven enterprise. In higher ed, we're a lot more loose with the data. With the UC system, we actually have 10 campuses and we have 9 different ERP systems. So trying to combine the data, to normalize it, classify it, it's a huge effort even to get there. And then you have to take that data and make it actionable and drive some information out of it.
Okay. So with University of California Office of the President, or what we call UCOP, what's the most challenging part of your role there as the director role for analytics?
Yeah. I think that's working with the 10 campuses, right? Okay. Each of the campuses has a unique set of priorities. Each of the campuses has a different culture or a different flavor to them. And my job is to take the autonomy of the 10 and preserve it, yet try to get the group to agree on normalized processes or using normalized systems, right? If we can use the same processes and the same systems, then we can drive data, right, to help inform future decisions and move us forward.
Okay, makes sense. And would you say that Santa Cruz is your favorite?
Of course. Definitely.
Okay. So what are some of the cool things you can share with our students that's going on today with the use of data analytics?
Okay. I was actually recently at an ISM conference back in Baltimore, and it focused on technology and data. And, IBM gave their spiel about Watson and unstructured data. And I really think there's a lot of time and work and energy going into wrapping our arms around that unstructured data, right? 80% of the world's data is unstructured. So the data that we have that's neatly organized in the tables, right, and the databases that we can get to is very limited, right? And there's all this other content out there that we need to wrap our arms around. And I think that's really going to be a big push. It's an interesting problem, challenge, right, that we have ahead of us. But it's very interesting to think what we can actually do with all those data sources if we can wrap our arms around it.
Okay. I did hear about that conference. That sounds like a pretty cool event.
It was.
Did they talk about trends or maybe what we can look ahead in the next 5 years? What's going to be happening in supply chain and technology? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think it's more around having a digital foundation and automation, partnering with technology, right? Efficient business processes partnered with technology to drive a global supply chain, right? Integration with your partners, integration across departments within the enterprise, and really having that interconnectivity of all the data and the information and the automation to drive efficiencies. I know personally, if I place my order on Amazon and it's not on my doorstep the next day, I'm wondering what happened, right? And as the speed of the world increases, and consumers demand, things at our fingertips, companies are going to have to embrace that and find a way to make themselves more efficient so they can deliver on the consumer's demands or preferences.
Okay. Well, with the consumer behavior, consumer preferences, do you see the use of things like drones for delivery coming about? Is that a real part of getting the Amazon for the next day?
I think that's going to happen in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see, right? There's some big hurdles with air traffic control and safety and all those sorts of things, but I think that will eventually happen. Okay. The more automated a company can become, Amazon's still not profitable, right? Think about if they can actually make drone delivery work, what that would do to their bottom line, right? So I think it's coming. Maybe not soon, but we'll see if they can get it going.
Okay, interesting. How about supply chain robotics? Warehouse distribution, automated retrieval systems.
That's going to be important for efficiencies, right? I don't think it's going to replace all the warehouse workers, right? Okay. Or the pickers. You're going to have a large scale operation to make that happen. That's a huge investment, right? And so a lot of companies maybe won't be able to get there anytime soon. And I think the really important thing to remember about technology is it's a tool, right? It is not the end all and be all. You have to have an efficient supply chain process. You have to be knowledgeable about, about the process itself and the foundations and your assumptions, and you partner the technology with it. So you partner some of the automated picking and the systems and all that. But if you don't have a good process, the technology is just going to exacerbate and point out all of your inefficiencies. So the education, right, the tools, the learnings is always going to be the foundation. And then you're really a double threat if you understand the technology, right, and can have a very well thought out process to partner it with.
Okay. So no need to fear robots taking over
no,
our jobs.
No, because even if the robots take over, they're going to go haywire one day and somebody's going to fix it, right? Okay. Somebody's got to know what happens.
Okay. I think I saw that in the movie. Actually.
Yeah.
So, okay. Looks like we're getting close here. Maybe we'll do two stints if we need to. So, As far as skills, you talked about technology and
Mhm.
having that know-how to make be successful in supply chain management. What type of skills do our supply chain leaders need to have?
Mhm. Uh, it's critical thinking, right?